All right, hello everybody. So I just wanted to give you a little overview of the modifications and items I did to my 2018 Vibe Seaghost in the winter. I didn't do this video earlier on purpose because I wanted to try out some of the modifications I did to see if I was going to adjust them anymore or not after using them a couple times. So this is kind of the finished product as of now. That worked on some of the kinks and some of the little problems that I had. So we'll start at the front, let you see what I worked on, and if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. I'm glad to show you some more. So I'll turn it around. So from the front, I've taken out what is inside of here. So the batteries, I run a deep cycle large battery for the trolling motor, and then a little 20 amp hour battery for the Fishfinder. You'll notice there's multiple plugs connected to the deep cycle, and I'll explain that in a second. Everything is wired underneath. So I used the area inside the hull and also put a little hole above the scupper plug for the different sets of wires. I use these connections, these waterproof, watertight locking connections, to wire different pieces onto here. So what I've got wired off of this one, right now I've got two. I just connected three. I just said while I'm here I'll do it. One of them is for the Fishfinder, and one of them powers a USB plug I put inside the hatch if I ever want to plug in something. And then a third one, just in case I ever want to do something. So those are all wired underneath. Okay. Next, you can see where the wires come up, transducer, and then I took the extra transducer cord, and that's where I put a little hole and some silicone and put all the extra cord inside there, coiled it up. This way it wasn't hanging out somewhere. I didn't want to bend it too tight and stuff it down in that hole. And it goes into here. So here's the Fishfinder setup, which is pretty cool. I got the ram mount, so it's attached right to the top. The Fishfinder, which is now adjustable, I can move it forward and back because of that ram mount. It's got a lot of flexibility to it. I used to keep a GoPro here on a little flexible thing, and it would move around and shake. But then I got smart and said, well, I can adjust and I can attach one of the GoPro mounts inside the base plate here. And I've put, so it's all in one, and I never take it off now. The GoPro is attached to the Fishfinder. I put a little piece of tape, learning lesson, to keep it from knocking. Had that in some of my other videos. I attach a little battery, just for ease. I've got a little, I don't know what size it is, but there's a battery that goes in there, and I can take it in and out, and I plug that into the GoPro. That's just a little cord, and the other side connects into the GoPro. Powers it all day long. Awesome. Larger, extended rod holders. If you don't use these larger ones, get them. They're like 15 bucks a piece, and it just gives you so much more flexibility. I also installed the trolling motor, which is attached to that battery. This is the speed controller, built right into the lid, and this is the actuator. So this is the Kevin Dismuke trolling motor mount setup. Inside I have the pneumatic pump that holds it, but there's so much weight on top now you can't see it, but there is a lot of wiring underneath here. You can see the voltmeter. There's a fuse back in there. There's another fuse for the Fishfinder behind that. And that voltmeter, if I pull the cap off, it's also USB charger. All the wiring is up underneath here. So that's the wiring for the speed controller, for the trolling motor. So there's a lot of wiring in here, so you do lose some space. And it all goes through a little hole I cut in the front. Hard to see it in the dark, but way up in front I cut a little hole, and that's where all the wires go through to the hull. Okay, this is what it does in the back. So there's your trolling motor setup. It mounts right onto, there's a plate that comes here so you don't have to drill any holes. It's got screws built into the plate. You put it right on. I put a little wing nut on there. And it's got a large metal butt that sits right inside that hole where the rudder went. The rudder controls that used to be cord, I did the wire, and they actually attach to the trolling motor. So you can control the trolling motor with your foot pedals. Awesome. The actuator, which is right here, up and down. So if I push it down, it will lower the trolling motor down. When it gets to its stopping point, it stops. It's a 3-way switch, up, down, and then neutral is nothing. Speed controller, turn it on and we've got motion. This is just a 30-pound thrust speed controller. I thought I'd get a little handy, and I put a little solar panel back here. I don't use this area for much. Some people do. Got a little solar panel, melted it, matched it with some little stainless steel here, and I just let it sit there. I don't even ever take it off. Got it wired with, again, a little hole with some silicone. And this wire is these large alligator clips. So it's charging the trolling battery if I'm out and there's a nice day while I'm using it. Just extends the battery life a little more, that's all. I used the cord that was on here for the rudder. If you remember, it slacked down and it was really, out of the way. So I took the extra cord and just kind of tied it up into a little pattern. But what it is, I attached it to the top here because there's one nice feature with this this Muke mount is it's got a bracket here that allows it to swivel. So if you hit a rock or something. But I can also use the cord for the rudder, pull up the trolling motor, and get it out of the way. So if I'm going through a weedy area, and I just attached a zigzag cleat here, now it's up out of the way. Then when I get back to where I want to put it in the water again, undo it, let it out, we're ready to roll. This is the wiring harness that goes to the trolling motor. There's a whole setup if you get one of these. It's an RV plug. So there's a plug base that screws into here. Just put some silicone around it. And then the plug that goes into the trolling motor. So I just unplug it. I don't know if I can do it with one hand because it's got a little safety. There we go. So that's what it looks like when it's out. That plug is what goes underneath in the hull all the way in and comes in up here in the front. So that's the setup. It works pretty cool. Oh, risers. I had the seat risers in the front. I made my own riser in the back. I don't know if you can see it. Sorry, it's really tight in there. It's basically, I had an old broomstick because I wanted it supported across the whole width. So I cut an old broomstick to match the width of the piece, and then I put these giant screws in there to hold it because it holds pressure here in the middle and on the sides. So I wanted that all the way across. So now it's elevated front and back. I think I had this last year, I'm not sure, but I made my own anchor trolley. It's just a piece of rope chain. I had people talk about that, where you can just put a rope chain so you drag it, so you don't have to worry about it getting stuck. I had the old style, and I found it getting stuck a lot, so I just made my own piece of rope chain. I just threw some duct tape around it and some paracord on it, and I made my own anchor trolley. I don't know if everyone's buying them, but to be quite honest with you, if you attach one of these little stainless steel bolts, round things, it's got the little piece on here you tighten down. I put my rope along there, a little stainless steel piece at Home Depot, little round circles, and then up here another one of those stainless steel round things, put it around the power cord, the stretchy cord there, and I have an anchor trolley that cost about $4. I mean, you can go buy the expensive ones, but you have the pieces to match them there. So that's what we did in the off season. There's a trolling motor set up. So the GoPro, if you watch any of my videos, when you see it in front of me, it's right there. It's not that one. I put the one I'm filming on up there, but so it sits all up there in one piece. Super handy. The batteries last all day. I've been out as much as 6 or 7 hours and still had battery life. So when people ask, what battery are you using for a Fishfinder? That's what I use, and there's always juice left on it. No matter how much trolling I've done, this is the battery I use. It's not really a deep cycle trolling motor type battery, but you know, it says it in the name, but it's not a true one with a lot of power. I think it comes out to like 55 amp hours or something like that. But that's the connection to the solar. So the solar charges it a little bit here and there. All underneath. All inside of here. Cords on that side. You can see the transducer cords and everything else that comes through. And it all fits inside of here. That's the key. Everything fits in there. This is a group 24 size battery. Fits inside of there first. And then the little trolling motor battery sits up against it. Everything fits, everything works, and it's cool. Really fun winter project, worked on it. And I keep a couple of battery chargers for when I get home. If you don't have one of these, I highly recommend it. Not endorsed by anybody. This battery charger is awesome because it monitors, it shuts off, it charges, it turns onto flow and trickle charge when it needs to. So I put my big battery on here. It'll charge it up from very low within just a few hours, and then I keep a little trickle charge for the Fishfinder battery. So when I get back, sit the batteries up here, plug them both in. We're good to go. I hope you enjoy. That's what I did this winter. Fun little projects to do. They do take some time. Wiring up the trolling motor setup with all the wires. I'm not handy. It wasn't hard, I just didn't have the tools to necessarily do all of those things. You need a couple spools of wire, different gauges, wire crimps, connectors. I found it very helpful to get a soldering iron, and I soldered a lot of the connections instead of crimping, wiring, taping, and wrapping. So it just made it last longer. Take a little longer to do, but I think it's more secure. That was a fun setup, and I've been using it like crazy. It's great for holding position on windy days, so you don't have to keep paddling, you know. If the wind is at your back, you just turn it on reverse on the lowest speed, and it'll hold you still. It's good for fishing shorelines. Turn it on low and go along the shorelines, and you know, you cover a lot of ground without paddling so much.